Good afternoon and welcome everyone to Aspen Tech's presentation of what's new in Zoho projects. Now, over the past 6 months, Zoho has introduced a variety of enhancements to Zoho projects. I'm going to take the next 50 to 60 minutes to share with you some of our most alluring new features that have been introduced. Now, during the webinar, I'm going to be referencing Zoho projects, the enterprise version. For those of you who have bundled packages such as Zoho One and CRM Plus, this is the projects version you are using. So by way of introduction, I am Tracy Sorrentino. I'm an Aspen Tech Zoho consultant, trainer, and project manager. I have 4+ years of experience on the Zoho platform, and I've been a certified consultant since 2020. A little bit about Aspen Tech. Aspen Tech was established in 1994 as a customer relationship management and solutions consulting business. We have clients throughout North America in a variety of industries. We are based in Novi, Michigan, which is a suburb just northwest of Detroit. We consist of a team of 8 consultants, being trainers, developers, and support staff. Okay, so what do we know about Zoho Projects? Zoho Projects is a cloud-based tool, and it's used to plan, track, collaborate, and achieve project goals. This results in increased productivity, improved teamwork, and tracking work efficiently. The updates that I'm going to introduce to you today allow for a lot more customization and flexibility using Zoho projects. So let's talk about our agenda today. Our agenda, what I've done is I've broken it down into 3 key aspects of the Zoho projects application. Number 1, we're going to talk about user interface, and then we're going to talk about enhancements to the customization. We'll talk about new features that have been added into the automation. And then we're going to leave some time at the end for a Q&A opportunity. For the next few slides, I'm going to give you an overview of some of the most important enhancements, and then we're going to move into a live demonstration. First, we're going to start with the user interface updates. On the home screen, Zoho has introduced a few new widgets on the home screen, which we'll look at. Also, they've added a weekly calendar view to Zoho projects. In the past, you could see it monthly and daily. You could not see it weekly. What that does is it'll show you your projects and tasks that are scheduled for whether it's day, month, or week view. Then we're going to look at the recent projects customization tool. I don't know how many of you have been using projects. It used to be you open a project and it just added that project to a list at the bottom of your screen. Now they've actually added some customization so that you can actually you can modify the view of those projects. Next, we're going to talk about some reports. They've made several updates to the reports. For the resource utilization report in particular, they've added a view for a heat map. We'll look at that a little closer. They've offered the options for customizing some of the reports by using 2 comparison points for projects and tasks. They've added color coding to the task list on the Gantt chart. And then they've also integrated with Zoho Analytics. I'm going to show you how to do that, or I'm going to show you the integration. Next, we'll talk about customization. With the customization, Zoho has added a few new fields. One of them is the integration field type, which will be done on the project layout. It's a very nice very nice integration because it lets you integrate the Zoho CRM with Zoho projects. I'm going to show you how to use that. We've added a user pick list field. It's basically a lookup field, but what you can do is limit the number of users that are that will be used as values in that pick list. They've added a new field onto the task called billing type. You now have the ability to track billable and non-billable hours on your tasks. And then they've also introduced a private task layout. Next, we're going to talk about project and task automation, which is a new feature in Zoho projects. Zoho projects, well, the projects automation and task automation both include automation based on workflow rules. Using a trigger in your workflow rule, you can update a field, you can send an email notification, you can actually push data from projects to a third-party application via a webhook, or you can also add customized custom functions or actions that can be created via a workflow. Next, we have task automation, which are the association of blueprints with task lists. They've actually added a new feature called parallel transitions. We're going to look a little closer at that. And then we're going to talk about macro rules. Macro rules are very similar to workflow rules in that based on a trigger, an action can happen. The limitation is that the action is a field update only, and a macro rule needs to be triggered or executed manually. Okay, so let's jump into the live demonstration. One thing I did want to note is there is a Q&A tab up at the top of the left-hand panel. If you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A, and I will monitor that during the presentation. But for all intents and purposes, any questions we will save to the end for the Q&A session. Okay, let's talk about our user interface updates. One of the things I did discuss during the overview is that there are new charts in the home screen. You'll see that I'm looking at the portfolio view of the home screen, and you're going to notice that they have added a few other KPI widgets up at the top here. You still have active projects and your completed projects, your tasks and your issues, but now they have your projects based by client companies. If I click on that, I can see that I have projects that are associated with Alpha Dog, Attendance on Demand, Blessings to You, My Zells, Marketplace, and Oh My Goodness. Going back to the home screen, you also have the ability to categorize your projects by project groups. Project groups are categories that you can use to basically sort your projects. You're going to see that I have a marketing category, I have a cooking class category, a catering category, and an event management category. Now, in case you haven't been in my trainings before, my demo CRM is actually bakery, where we offer storefront bakery services as well as catering and cooking classes. Going back to the home screen, there's a new widget here for a project timeline Gantt chart. What that does is it shows all of the projects that are currently scheduled and in progress in this Gantt chart. There's an option to move your this little panel here to resize this chart as necessary so you can see more of the Gantt portion of it, or less if you want to see more details of your projects. Then we have other widgets. These are some of the same widgets. You have project status reports and ownership reports. And this is where you can group your projects, and you can see what projects are grouped by which are sorted by which group. And clients, how they're grouped by clients. Your projects are grouped by clients. Your budget health, your timeline summary, and then some more budget detail down here. So that's basically your home screen. One of the things that I mentioned earlier was this recent projects customization here. Recent projects used to look like this. Let's see. Recent projects used to look like this. All you'd have here is just a list of your projects. Okay. Now there's an option using this tool, this customization tool here. You can add a prefix ID simply by toggling it on. And now you see you have several, I have my projects as well as their ID. But you can see that I still can't see the whole name on the project. If I go back here, I can view the full project title. And what it does is it brings all your whole title here. Next, we have the Find Your Project or Lookup tool. If I wanted to see project number 43, I type in 43. Well, I don't have a 43, so let's say 40. Okay, if I look up project number 40, you can see that it's Tyler and Martin Wedding. I can also sort or look up based on my prefixes. If I want to look up all of my catering projects, I type in CTER. If I wanted to look up my admin projects, I have one bridal show extravaganza. That's an admin product. Okay, so there's a variety of ways to look up your projects. Another nice feature of this recent projects is as you open projects, you're going to see them listed here. Well, if you don't want to see things like the going away party, you can close that. You can close your blogs, you can close your project blogs, so you can manage what's down the side view of your recent projects. One of the other items that I suggested that I would be talking about is the calendar view. In the calendar view, you currently have an option to look at your tasks and projects based on month. Now you have an option to view them based on week or by day. Okay, you can change these simply by scrolling through the calendar bar at the top, and you can change your filters simply by adding filters over here or removing these. I'm currently looking at just my open ones. Okay. Let's talk about some of the new, another new feature they've added to Zoho Projects is if I go to the Projects module, just like the CRM, we have a new option called Custom View. Okay, we notice, or for those of you who are using projects on a regular basis, you're going to notice that you can change the view that you have of your projects and your tasks and your issues. And it looks very similar to the modules in the CRM. You now have the option to create a custom view at the bottom, which we didn't have before. If I click on Create a Custom View, I'm going to start creating one, and I'm going to say my project type is active, and the owner is not Tracy. So it's everybody else's projects that are active. So I'm going to say it's active projects not owned by me. Okay. There's an option here to click the checkbox so that you can manage the columns from here. So just like in the CRM, you can add different columns to your results. And then here you also have the ability to share your report or your custom view with others. I'm just going to use this, or I'm just going to leave it looking or to me only. I click on Save, and here's a list of all of the projects that are not owned by me but are active. I have one that's associated with TS Zoho Trial 03, which is a user on my CRM. And then I have 4 that are owned by Teresa Smith. Okay. Again, if I wanted to go back to all projects, I simply hover over that custom view, click on all projects, and now I am back to all of my active projects. You can do the same thing with tasks. If I click on tasks here, and you also have a create custom view down here. One of the things that I have already created here were tasks due this week. If I click on my tasks due this week, again, just like the CRM, I hover over this view. I get an edit pencil so that I can go in and I can edit my custom view. So the status of my tasks are either open or in progress, and their due date is this week. I've named my view. I could add a description. These are my customized columns, and then I can share this view with others. I'm going to click save, and then you can see that I only have 3 tasks that are due this week. Let's go into, I'm going to go back to my projects, and we're going to actually open a project, and I want to show you some of the changes that they've made to the project view. I'm going to go to the Tyler and Martin wedding because I know that one at least has more tasks in it than some of my other ones. We're going to start by looking at the dashboard. The dashboard has some widgets associated with it. You have all of your task statuses widget here, and overdue work items, issues status, the list of users and where they are with their tasks and issues. You have a weekly digest indicating how many tasks, task lists, milestones, and issues that are open and completed. You have a milestone status, timesheet summary, upcoming work items. There's all kinds of information here. If you wanted to change these widgets, you could go in here and you can edit your project. Oh, no, you can customize your widgets right here. And you can change, like if I didn't want to see the milestone status, I turn that off, I click save, and that milestone status widget is now removed. The next tab is the tab details, or the project details. This is a fairly new tab. When you create your project and you start adding information to your layout, previously you weren't able to see those details unless you went in and edited the project. Now you can see the details right here. This is fairly new as well. Comments, you can make comments right on the project, so all of the users that have access to that project can see the comments. And these comments actually, they roll up to the feed as well. Okay. And then you have an activity stream. Very similar to the audit log in the CRM, and it tells what all the activities are that are related to this project. A nice new feature in tasks that they've recently added is what is it called? Bulk updates. Okay, what you can do, you weren't able to do this before. Anytime you wanted to change something on a task, you had to do it one at a time. Now you can actually do a bulk update or a mass update, like as they call it in the CRM, by simply clicking your tasks, and then you're going to see all of these buttons across the top here, and you can move these tasks, you can delete them, you can associate issues, you can change your owner, your status, your start date, your due date. All of this information can be changed as it relates to these 3 tasks. Okay, I'm going to deselect my tasks, and I want to draw your attention up to the left here. There's a customized column button. This is very similar to the one that is in the CRM, but in the CRM, it's located all the way to the right. They basically serve the same function. I'm going to click on that. And here, this is where we can reformat or customize the view we have here. You're going to see my owner field, my status field, my start field, my start date, due date, priority, and completion percentage are all clicked on or are all enabled here. You can enable a lot more information here. One of the new features here is that frequently tasks have dependency rules. They have a predecessor or a successor, okay? You can now, in the past, you'd have to actually open the task, and from the task, you'd have to go into the tabs at the bottom and look at your successor and predecessors. Now you have them in this these column in the column views. You can turn them on, click save, and from here now I can see that I have tasks that are that have predecessors and successors. Not only that, from here there's a drop down arrow. I can remove them. Oops. I can remove them simply by deleting and saving, or I can add them. Say I wanted to say TA3, T5. I can add them. Oh, okay. Let's try this one. TA3, T5. Okay, there we go. I can add that. Let's talk about users. Okay. Now, users as associated with a task, there's always been a user tab, and you can add your users simply by clicking on Add Users here. If you notice next to the users, there's a drop-down arrow. You also have client users. If your project is associated with a company, you can add external users known as client users to the project from the setup menu. But what I really want to show you is the teams. Okay, teams is a fairly new addition. It's used to manage a group of users associated with projects. For organizations that have specific teams who work collaboratively on a project, Zoho has introduced Zoho Teams. You're going to see from here for my catering, the catering arm of my business, I have a service and catering team, and I have a food prep team. Okay, so you can associate these teams with specific tasks in your project. Okay, now what's the benefit of having these teams and using these teams is, number one, you can filter your tasks by team. If I do my catering team, I can see all of my tasks that are currently associated with my catering team. Not only that, if you go to the dashboards and you want to comment, or you want to comment to my catering team, you can @mention your catering team and submit that. And what happens is everybody on that catering team is going to receive an email. Okay, speaking of email, let me show you how to create a team in one of the really nifty contributions to the team. I'm going to go to the setup menu using the gear icon in the upper right hand corner, which I already happen to have open. And I'm going to search for teams. It goes to manage users and teams. If I open my administrative team and I edit it, you give the team a name. You associate your team users simply by adding a new user. You indicate who the team lead is, and then you can associate projects as necessary. This here, this team alias, if I hover over it, you can create an email alias for this team. And what it will do is the team users will have access to this email alias. So then if you wanted to, you could send emails or notifications to this email alias, and the whole team would have access to this. Okay, so that's another benefit of using Teams. Finally, one of the other benefits of using Teams is that if in fact my team users include Tracy and Teresa, and either Tracy and Teresa left, I can remove that. I can remove Teresa and add somebody else, and that person would be added to all of these projects. Or if I wanted to add a new user to the team, simply by, maybe I have a, a food prep person that I want to add here. They would be added to all these projects at one time. We're going to go back to the front part of Zoho projects, and we're going to look at tasks. Nope, we've already looked at that. Let's go to reports. Sorry about that. We're going to use the reports module. In the reports module, number one, we have the Gantt chart. The Gantt chart, again, can be resized here. What I want to show you here is one of the new features. It's a small feature, but it's a powerful feature. And what it is color coding for tasks. Okay, most of our projects are made up of tasks. As we click on our task, you can see I'm hovering over this task. Currently, all of our tasks are in blue. That's the default color. But when I hover over it, notice that I get a task color wheel here. If I click on that color wheel, I can change the color of this task. Now, why is that helpful, right? Users can change the color of the taskbar based on different preferences. Maybe you want to assign your colors based on priority. Maybe you want to assign them based on task or billing status or owner. You can do that simply by clicking on the color wheel and selecting your colors. Okay, so that works with the task bar. Next, we have the resource utilization. The resource utilization always look like this. This is the bar view. If you click here, we now have a heat map view. Heat map view shows you a little bit more color. One thing I want to show you here is myself. This is my week. This is my week. Okay, you're going to notice that basically the heat or the resource utilization report allows you to balance work among your team. Okay, it's color coded to identify who has availability in their schedule and who doesn't. All right, if you see red, you're going to see that, like for me, tomorrow I'm over allocated by 4 hours. All right, what I can do at this point is I can go to the tasks that are assigned to me, and I can scroll down and look at these tasks. I have 4 hours here. I have 4 hours here. That's 8 hours right there. But if I keep scrolling down, I have another 4 hours right here. Well, this is kind of another 4 hours that are sticking, that's just kind of sticking out here. I can either, if I click on this task, I can either change the number of hours, or I can move days, or I can assign this to somebody else. I assign that to Teresa. I say done. The task has been updated. When I refresh the screen, you're going to see that now my tasks, I'm not over allocated, but now Teresa is over allocated. Okay, so maybe that wasn't the best place to do that. Maybe I could assign that to Paula or Tom. Okay, but that's how you can do that. Let's go using the drop down to the left here. I'm going to go to project reports. Now the project reports, for those of you who've been using reports and projects before, we still have our basic reports and our advanced report. However, there's been a new option down here called custom project reports. What this does is it allows you to compare two sets of criteria. So currently I'm looking at the owners and I'm looking at the projects based on group names. Okay, so all of these are assigned to me as the owner, and they're for the catering group. I have two that are ungrouped. I have one project that is for the event management and admin, and one for marketing. I can go in and I can change this to status by group name, click apply, and now I have the statuses by group. I can then change this, and maybe I want statuses by client company. Here's my legend over here, it indicates if I click on attendance on demand, I have 1 active and 2 completed. 1 active for Blessings to You, 1 for Meisel's Marketplace. Another option here is to reformat this chart. If I go up here and click on the chart type, there's limited options, but I can change this by changing. Maybe I want to change this to a vertical stacked uh, uh, look. Okay, so I can do that as well. That's from the projects reports. Now I can also go to the task reports. The task reports has the same thing. Again, I have all the basic reports, and then I have advanced reports, but then I have this custom task report. Again, it can be modified based on comparing 2 criteria. So right now I'm looking at projects by owner. You can see that Teresa owns projects for Alpha Dog, Tyler. Oh, these are tasks. Okay, these are tasks, not projects. Okay, so she has 21 tasks on the Alpha Dog project, 3 on the Tyler Martin wedding, etc. And click on My People over on the right here, and it'll show what tasks and what projects they're associated with. Again, you can make changes based on owner and maybe the priority of my tasks. I have 166 that don't have a priority, 84 that have a high priority. Okay, again, you have the option for customization as well here. Finally, one of the nice things is you have an option for integrating with Zoho Analytics. If I click on Zoho Analytics here, what you have is you have a list of all sorts of dashboards and reports. Now, I went into Zoho Analytics and I created some of these, or I fetched this report and I created this dashboard. Now, you can go to Zoho Analytics proper simply by clicking the button in the upper right-hand corner. It takes you right into Zoho Analytics. And from here, you can go into your dashboards and you can find your Zoho project dashboards. This is the one that I just created and is currently in projects. We also have several reports here. If I type in projects from the search, I have several different projects that can be viewed right from here. Okay, I'm going to close out of analytics, and you're going to see from right here, this takes me into Zoho Analytics, or it gives me a view of Zoho Analytics in Zoho projects. And then I can see my open versus closed tasks created in the last 12 months. And I can see my tasks by status and my tasks by priority. So this is it's a nice feature to be able to look at some of your data in Zoho projects and Zoho Analytics. The reports inside of projects is somewhat limited. In Zoho Analytics, there's a lot more breadth and a lot more robust reporting options there. Let's go to, we're going to go using the gear icon in the upper right-hand corner. We're going to go to the setup. Okay. Now, in the setup, in this setup feature, we're going to go to the customization tab. Okay. In the customization tab, we're going to focus on layouts for projects and tasks. I'm going to click on projects. Now, I currently have 3 different layouts. All right. You can create your layout simply by clicking on the Create Layout button. You're going to clone it from an existing layout. You're going to give it a layout name. I'm going to call it Test. You can change your layout permissions. And then when you create it, this is going to allow you to customize layouts in a way that makes most sense for your business. couple of the fields that I mentioned in the overview was this user pick list field. This is very similar to the CRM in that you have a list of fields on the left and then you have an editor on the right. You simply grab hold of the field and you drag it onto the editor. And from here, you're going to name the field name, and I'm going to call it a collaborator. And then from here, you have an option to limit your values in the pick list. You can select all users, and all users based on the project will be part of this pick list. You can select it based on roles. If you wanted to just add employee roles or administrator roles, you can do that. Or you can select your users as they appear here. Maybe the only people that are going to be collaborators here are going to be Teresa and Tom. Okay, you can add that to the layout, and now you have a collaborator field. One of the other fields I mentioned earlier is this integration field. You're going to notice I currently have an integration field that integrates with the Zoho CRM account. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Zoho deal integration now. So I'm going to grab hold of the integration field. I'm going to pull it over. And from here, I'm going to name it deal. From here, it asks me to select a service. I'm going to select the Zoho CRM. Then it asks me to select my module. My module is going to be my deals module. And then it asks me for the field that I want to add as my field. So I'm going to say my deal name. Whoops, you know what it is? I'm going to say name because it's potential name, because that is the default name for the deals module. Okay, I can add a hint for that field. If it contains personal health information, I can identify that, or I can encrypt the field. I add it to layout. Now, whenever I use this layout, I can associate my account or my deal to this project. Okay, I save my layout and I apply changes. And now I have this test layout. Now, we also have a task layout. If I click on the task layout, again, you can create your layout and it's going to be the same thing. You're going to create your layout. You'll clone it from an existing layout. You'll give it a name, create it. The same type of fields here. You have the user pick list. You do not have an integration field here. Okay. But one thing you do have is you have layout rules. This is fairly new. Layout rules are used to show and hide fields and sections based on the requirements, based on your requirements, okay? You're going to see that I have two sets of layout rules here already. I have a catering task template. Actually, let's look at the unscheduled due date. If I look at this, if a due date doesn't have a value and it's unscheduled, I set a mandatory field for appointment date. Okay, so what that does is if my task is scheduled and doesn't have a due date, then the appointment date is going to be mandatory. Okay, so you have that option to add task rules or layout rules to your task layouts. On your task layout, I've neglected to mention this a moment ago. We have this billing type field. Remember, I indicated that earlier. This is a brand new field called billing type, and you have the options for billable and non-billable. You can now track time logs based on billable and non-billable hours to your task. Next, we have private layouts. Whoops. Let me go back to my setup menu. And my customization, and go to my tasks. If you want to create private layouts. Now, private layouts are layouts that can only be accessed by the users who are associated with the project that the private layout has been created for. Okay. To make a private layout, you can click on this toggle right here, and then anything after any layouts that are created now will be created as private layouts. What you can also do is you can see that I have this blog layout right here that I'm hovering over, and there's a link here that lets you make it a private layout. Once you've created a layout and associated one project with it, you can make it a private layout. If you're going to use a private layout, you will only use it for one project, okay? So you can make that a private layout simply by clicking on it. And then when I refresh the screen, it should move down to the private layouts as it did. And it's associated with the client user project. Okay, now why would we use a private layout? What it does is it helps maintain control over the data in the fields of the task. Also, it can only be associated, I already said it can only be associated with one project. But in the case of maybe you're working on a project that is time or maybe it's sensitive in some way, you can use your private layouts. One thing that they've just introduced is if I go to manage users in the side panel, a new profile called read only. Okay, read only profiles are new and they're given to users so that they can have portal access, and inside the portal they can view projects or tasks that are assigned to them. They can log time against those projects. They can be mentioned. Now these users cannot be project owners or administrators, but they can be users in a project. And there's a limitation of only 10 users. If you add a read-only user, you have to have a subscription for them. Okay. If I look at my users here, I do have a read-only user right here, Paula Poundstone. If I added her if you add a user, it'll take you to your Zoho admin panel if you're on a bundled package. And from here, you have the option to change if you're adding a user to Zoho projects, you have the option for read-only right here. I don't have enough subscriptions to add another user. Okay, let's talk about some automation. Okay, automation at the project level and at the task level is focused on workflow rules. Okay, workflow rules are used to organize the project efficiently, adding automated actions that meet certain project requirements. They're very similar to workflow rules in the CRM. To create a workflow rule, you simply click new workflow rule. You give it a name. I'm going to call it Notify Catering Team. I can give it a description. I can add it to all layouts or a specific layout. But just like with a workflow rule in the CRM, you're going to define a trigger, or you're going to tell it when to execute. You can execute it on any of these actions here. We're going to do it on create. We're going to click next. You can add criteria when you're adding a project. And maybe you want to identify, maybe you want it owner specific or status specific or date specific. I'm not going to add any criteria, but I can add an action. With workflow rules, you could do similar actions as you can in the CRM. You can update a field. You can associate an email alert, which will send an email template. You can associate a webhook. You would need an API in order to push or send data into a third-party application using an API webhook, which would be stored here. Or you can create, using Deluge, a custom function that can be triggered based on adding this project. think of things like auto-creating tasks based on creation of a project. Okay, that's something that Aspen Tech can help you develop. Okay, if I were going to update a field, I simply identify what my field is here, and maybe I say my field is blog title, and I say TRN. Okay, so when my project is created, it's going to, well, for this, I guess we would probably not want to update the field. We'd want to send an email alert. Okay. Now, for notifying the catering team, I've already created an email alert. So I'm going to associate my email alert. And then my email alert, I'm going to look at my email alerts here. I'm going to save that rule. I'm going to look at my email alert and see notifying my catering team is pointing to the notify catering email template, which can be found here. I'm going to notify the project owner and the service catering team. If I want to look at this email template, I can go to the email templates here, click on the email template, and from here, the new project, hello, please note that the new project has been added. The project begins with, here's the start and end date, and it notifies the catering team. Okay, that's how we create a workflow or automation to notify our catering team when a project has been created. Now, if I go to task automation, again, we have the workflow rules here. And the email templates and email alerts and webhooks, they all work the same way, but it works from a task level rather than a project level. But some of the other task automation associated is a blueprint. I have a blueprint here, and blueprints can be associated with a task list. Now, a blueprint is used to automate a sequence of tasks in a project. Okay, there are two main pieces of a blueprint. There's the status and then the transition. Okay, the statuses are how we're getting from one step to the other in a process, and the transitions are the things that we have to do to get there. You're going to notice under PO requests and in between PO requests and delivery schedule, I have two different transitions here. These are parallel transitions. I click on the icon here, it indicates that it's a parallel transition. And that means that both of these transitions must be executed at the same time. Okay, so you can have you have a limit of 4 transitions that can happen at the same time, but each one of them has to be completed in order to make it to the next status. Finally, we have macro rules. Macro rules allow a user to update tasks in bulk based on certain conditions. You're going to see that I have assigned task to project owner when a task is unassigned. If I click on that, it says my criteria is my task owner is unassigned, and I'm going to update the owner field to project owner on these tasks when that happens. Okay, so to do that, like I said, macro rules have to be manually executed. So if I go to my macro rules and click the settings or the gear icon, they have an option to execute the macro rule. And from here, I can select the project I want to make the changes to. So I'm going to say the Silverstein Bar Mitzvah. I can identify a milestone and a task list, or a milestone or a task list. But right now, I'm just going to look at the Silverstein Bar Mitzvah. I'm going to say execute. And then if I go back to my projects, go to the Silverstein Bar Mitzvah, and notice that my tasks have been updated with the project owner. All right, that was a lot of updates. And At this point, I've only scratched the surface of some of the updates that are out there. There's a lot more information about these updates. This was simply an introduction. What I'm going to do is after the webinar, I'm going to process the recording. And when I do, I'm going to send you a 39-page slide presentation, which with more information about some of these updates. At this point, I'm going to open the floor up for any questions. I'm going to go to my question and answer section and see what kind of questions have been presented. Okay, somebody's asking the question for the Gantt chart and the task colorization. Is there a way to automatically update those task colors based on owner? Unfortunately, not at this time. There is not. There is not. That was one of the things that I have requested from Zoho. Hopefully, in the near future, we're going to see that. Are there any other questions? Okay. Looking along, or also similar to our color questions for the tasks, somebody wants to know if you can modify the color on a report using our heat maps or our Gantt chart, not so much the Gantt charts, but some of our other customized reports. You cannot change the colors in Zoho projects. However, I did indicate that you can integrate with Zoho Analytics. If you create dashboards in Zoho Analytics, you can modify and customize your colors from Zoho Analytics. Are there any more questions? Okay. I hope that this Zoho projects updates webinar was helpful. For those of you who are using projects on a regular basis, let me know if you have questions. For those of you who are just starting out with Zoho projects, Aspen Tech can help get the ball rolling. Now, how can we help? We can help you design a sustainable project management structure. We offer Zoho projects training at different levels, and it can be customized to fit your needs. If you plan to implement projects on your own and you simply need assistance or have questions, we can help in that way. One of the workflow items that I showed you was that we can trigger custom functions. We can actually develop the custom functions and script the code for you to actually have actions, like I said, maybe create a series of tasks based on a trigger. And we also offer technical support. Thank you for attending. If you need to get a hold of me or just contact me, you can use my email, or if you have technical support, please feel free to use the information on the screen. I appreciate your time this afternoon. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email. And other than that, it's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday, so happy weekend eve. Everybody, have a great day. Thank you very much.